We conservatives must enthusiastically continue to pursue our policies, our principles, and our agenda. We conservatives must continue to promote a constitutional government fiscal responsibility, border security, national security, and those things that our government is supposed to do. No crime is a justification for a political cause. I find this bizarre. None. The reason we are conservatives is because we believe in the civil society, with emphasis on the word civil. Civil society. Now, so much is said about civility, and what it is being used as a sort of a political tool by those who seek to silence us and wrap themselves in the word. And yet, the civil society is what the left fundamentally has to fight. When we come back, I'll explain it further. Because I just want to make sure that you're bucked up. I just want to make sure that you understand the gravity of this past election, that we continue to make our case, we continue to move forward, and we continue to build from here. And we do not allow ourselves to somehow be silenced or intimidated or whatever it is because of what one lone mentally ill mass murderer did, having nothing to do with you, having nothing to do with the election, and having nothing to do with liberty. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
This is a short segment, but what we're dealing with here is an extremely bitter and angry group of Washington elites who are having, as the late Peter Jennings once said, but I'll use it in my context, a temper tantrum. We the people have shaken up this entire Washington enterprise. The cozy relationship between government and media, between media and Hollywood. Yes, you've done that, and they don't like it. And so, of course, they attack Sarah Palin, one of the most effective conservatives in the country, an advocate of the Tea Party. They attack the Tea Party itself, and they attack conservatives who are effective at communicating generally. That's what they're doing. What they mean by civility has nothing to do with civility, as I will explain when we return. Now on to this issue of civility. Civility is not about curtailing free speech. Civility, ladies and gentlemen, is about the nature of a free society. They talk about, disingenuously, Sarah Palin's misuse of the word or the phrase blood libel, and yet she didn't misuse it. Now I want to talk about their misuse of the word civility. What does civility mean in the context of our society? That is, what is a civil society? Well, I'm going to turn to liberty and tyranny, because I went to great lengths to really think about this. In the civil society, The individual is recognized and accepted as more than an abstract statistic or faceless member of some group. He is a unique, spiritual being with a soul and a conscience. He is free to discover his own potential and pursue his own legitimate interests, tempered by a moral order that has its foundation in faith and guides his life and all human life through the prudent exercise of judgment. As such, the individual in the civil society strives, albeit imperfectly, to be virtuous. That is, restrained, ethical, and honorable. He rejects the relativism that blurs the lines between good and bad, right and wrong, just and unjust, and means and ends. Civility. In the civil society, the individual has a duty to respect the unalienable rights of others and the values, customs, and traditions, tried and tested over time and passed from one generation to the next, that establish society's cultural identity. He is responsible for attending to his own well-being and that of his family, and he has a duty as a citizen to contribute voluntarily to the welfare of his community through good works. In the civil society, private property and liberty are inseparable. The individual's right to live freely and safely and pursue happiness includes the right to acquire and possess property, which represents the fruits of his own intellectual and physical labor. As the individual's time on earth is finite, so too is his labor. The illegitimate denial or diminution of his private property enslaves him to another and denies him his liberty. Civility. In the civil society, a rule of law, which is just, known, and predictable, and applied equally, albeit imperfectly, provides the governing framework for and restraints on the polity, thereby nurturing the civil society and serving as a check against the arbitrary use and hence abuse of power. For the conservative, the civil society has as its highest purpose its preservation and improvement. The modern liberal believes in the supremacy of the state, thereby rejecting the principles of the Declaration and the order of the civil society. And you could see this on display the other week with the attacks on the Constitution, which is why I spend so much time on it. For the modern liberal, the individual's imperfection and personal pursuits impede the objective of a utopian state. In this, modern liberalism promotes what French historian Alexis de Tocqueville, Democracy in America, which he described as a soft tyranny, which becomes increasingly more oppressive, potentially leading to a hard tyranny. As the word liberal is in its classical meaning the opposite of authoritarian, it's more accurate, therefore, to characterize the modern liberal as a statist. Soft tyranny, a phrase used, defined in some detail by Alexis de Tocqueville, one of the great thinkers of all time, in writing about his observations of America and American democracy. No doubt a provocateur. No doubt a right-wing hate-monger. It is, therefore, ironic that the president, that the left, would be calling for civility when they don't even understand what it is. Or if they do, they're at odds with it, because their entire existence and philosophy challenges it with their big government agenda.